yellow color, orange, yellow.
Yeah.
That is so fancy.
Oh my goodness.
That's right. Just bless
We should
himself.
get a picture of that. That is amazing.
Yeah, right. I will wear this thing.
You look like Zambala.
Throw up monies. Throw up a lot of money.
No, glorious or splendiferous or something like that.
Splendid?
Just like,
Stop. Okay. Verse 7. Take on the sufferings of others and give them happiness. The root text. In short, both directly or indirectly, may I offer every happiness and benefit to all my mothers, and secretly take upon myself all the harm and suffering of my mothers. Dornang usum jepaye pandimarnam kan lambar mai notan dumar kan sangi dagla limber show. This is beautiful in Tibetan. Unfortunately, you can't read. I recite this version, this prayer, this verse, this Dornang usum jepaye pandimarnam kan all the time when I was sauna.
When you were where?
Sauna. Yeah, I feel my happiness when I take sauna. It feels good, right? So then I recite this prayer. So means when you experience happiness, you need to remember this practice. You know that, right? People say, I'm so happy. So if you remember this prayer, then your happiness not waste, meaningful. Otherwise, happiness is just short time and then gone. And then suffering, short time, gone. Then again, happiness, up and down, all the time, samsara. But if you remember this, prayer, then whatever you are suffering, you are happy, meaningful. So therefore, this verse is very important practice. And, this refers to the great Bodhisattva practice of giving and taking, right? Giving, taking. We have this exchanging self and others, motivated by a strong love and compassion. So we all know this. This meditation is very powerful means of building up courage in our minds, and is therefore a highly beneficial practice. We all know this. Buddha said that we need to increase our motivation of giving our happiness and our pleasure to others, and taking their suffering upon ourselves. Similarly, in the 37 practice of Bodhisattva says, all suffering comes from the wish for your own happiness. Perfect Buddhas are born from the thought to help others. So exchange your own happiness for the suffering of others, this is the practice of Bodhisattva. So when we talk about this practice, there are usually there are two different ways to misunderstand this practice. Very important to understand. Some people can misunderstand by thinking if I do Tonglen practice for others, in Tibetan we call Tonglen, right? This practice, Tonglen, giving and taking. If I do Tonglen practice for others, I will be suffering. I will be miserable because I will always be thinking about suffering of others and thinking only the negative side. So I'm making a very strong bad habit because I'm always thinking two reasons, thinking about sufferings of others and thinking about only Tonglen. When you practice Tonglen, Len is taking, taking. So it means you take unhappiness from others. So I'm always thinking negative things, negative side. So I don't want that, right? People misunderstand, people can't think about like that. So when you think you might experience a bit of discomfort if you think that, but that's really wrong idea, because the whole point of doing this is to the what do you call it? The lojong, right? Mind training, to tame yourself to be less ego, this egoistic. Again, the more selfish we are, the more greedy and full of desire we become. That's the result of selfishness. So if we think about sharing our happiness, means we will become less selfish. You have to share your happiness based on pure motivation, right? But if you do that, then that means you become less selfish. And also, through that practice, your capacity, to feel love and compassion for others will grow. So therefore, teachers say, don't worry about it. Don't worry. If you have a great motivation, then you will not suffer, actually. People think, they think about suffering of others, then they think I'm going to suffer because I'm taken. But if you have great motivation, you will not suffer. Instead of you really develop your love and compassion. When the Kadampa master Geshe Chekawa, we talk about today, right? Geshe Chekawa was dying. He suddenly, called his disciples, his students, and asked them to make a special offering and prayer for him, Geshe Chekawa, when he passed away. Because he said his practice had been unsuccessful, and then the disciples were very upset, because they thought something terrible was to happen. However, the master Geshe Chekawa then explained that although all his life he had been praying to be born in the hill for the benefit of others. My root teacher Kanchen Jigme always say that if I can benefit others, I can go hell. And he always he had been praying to be born in the hill for the benefit. In the hill, according to Buddhism, there are countless beings in the hill and suffering, right? So he want to go there and to benefit others. And he was now, when he died, receiving a pure vision of what was follow. He was going to be reborn a pure land, instead of hills. And that's why he was upset, That's why he asked his student and, offer and praying for him to go to hell.
Did he?
I don't know. No. We go to hell out of control, negative karma. These bodhisattvas, they have a power. They go to hell in order to help others if they have a karmic connection. If they don't have karmic connection, doesn't matter. They go to hell, can't help. So there are many causes and conditions in order to help. So we have karmic connection. Otherwise, you won't be here. I will be here. All right. So help each other. That means something, really. That's the thing. Like if you go to hell, if you don't have, even though you have capacity to go, your cause and condition, like it's most is like bodhicitta and compassion. That take that capacity, you can go to hell. But people have no connection to you, you can't help. So in the same way, if we develop a strong and sincere wish to be reborn in the lower realms for the benefit of others, my teacher always said, we accumulate a vast amount of merit that brings about opposite result. So whatever practice we do, we need to do it with the correct motivation, with compassion. So teachers say, don't give, for instance, don't give food or whatever to a beggar, so that other will think or say you are compassionate person, you are amazing. If you have that kind of motivation, West, help others temporarily. If you give food to others, help a little bit, but out of your selfish motivation, then there is no no merit accumulate, right? Accumulate merit. You can't do that. So that's why bodhicitta, again, everything makes genuine, makes very, very good. That's another way to misunderstand when you practice Tonglen. Don't worry about it. So again, people practice Tonglen, I will be very suffering. I don't want that. Don't worry about that. And then the other misunderstanding about this practice is some people can misunderstand by thinking that Tonglen practice can't possibly have an impact on anybody else's life, because it's only a sort of mental exercise, Even though we practice Tonglen, our happiness doesn't go anywhere. Some people think your happiness is yours. Others' suffering is theirs. You cannot take theirs. You cannot give your happiness. And you cannot, bring in their suffering or diminish their suffering. You cannot do that. So this practice doesn't appear to change anything. Many people think that, right? So that's also wrong, because the essential point is that Tonglen practice helps to develop and train your mind. So it is through mental development that you reach enlightenment. And if our selfishness diminishes, we will be able to take away the suffering of others if we have good karmic connections, right? Right now, even though we have connection with people, but we can't take their suffering because we don't have capacity, because we are ordinary people, because we have full of this selfishness. But once you diminish your selfishness through practice Tonglen, that's the actually idea. Why you practice Tonglen? Oh, less ego, less, try to diminish your selfishness. So once you diminish your selfishness, you have a lot of capacity. So then when you have connection, you can help, you can serve. I'm not sure this is true story or not, but there was a teacher. They had a puja at the monastery, and he sat on a throne, high throne, and usually like Tibet, the dogs everywhere, right? So sometimes dogs came into monastery. The monks sometimes a little bit give them food, or so they're everywhere. And one monk bit the dog, and the teacher kind of like fell down on the throne, and then said, "What happened?" "Because you bit me." They said, "You bit me." They didn't believe it, and then he showed here like this, like raid. Sometimes they can't take sufferings from others if they have a connection and if they have a capacity. So it's very true. But if you don't have capacity, you can't. Otherwise, Buddha is full of compassion, but still we are suffering. Why he can't help us? Because it's our karma. But sometimes that's possible to take others' suffering. But that's that is not the point. The point is like we practice Tonglen so that we can diminish our selfishness, and so that we can develop our capacity. We have bodhicitta mind. So once you have bodhicitta mind, you have lots of capacity. So that's why selfish diminish. We will be able to. It's possible. We'll be able to take away the suffering of others. It's very possible. Not 100%. There are lots of cause and conditions in order to do this, but it's possible. So because, for that reason, meditating on Tonglen is very necessary. Good for others, good for ourselves. So we have to. Sometimes people ask me this lot of questions like this: two misunderstandings. You have to help people, like when people have this kind of idea, wrong views, you can help others like this and this, you can explain. So I think, two people, two ideas, two misunderstandings, like when you practice Tonglen. And from Buddhist point of view, the interconnected nature of everything suggests that there will be some impact on others. Just like, for instance, just as our selfishness has an impact on others, right? our positive attitude will also have impact on others in a like tangible way. Like if you stay with a very happy person, you will be like very happy. It will change your attitude because of this person. Or if you are stay with like very unpleasant person and negative person, it will change, your, attitude. Like that's everything is like connected actually one way. So, like that. Sometimes we cannot take away suffering. Uh, you know, only practice always we practice with breath, right? When sometimes we cannot take, even though we practice only, we cannot take away suffering with the breath. But you can see that great intention is very powerful, right? I want a great intention means like you are diminishing your selfishness. Like I give my happiness to others and taking their. That's pure intention, right? So that's very powerful. Even though we don't have this capacity, but only like thinking, only practiced, only like that. That's very powerful. For that reason, sometimes when you practice Tonglen, it is possible to have a like temporary benefit, and sometimes there is not a temporary benefit, but ultimately there is a great benefit because you're trying to. The thing is, abandon your ego and try to increase your cherishing of others, and eventually you will experience a great benefit. That's about Tonglen. And now another important to understand is when training and giving away your happiness to others, it's unwise to try to give to all sentient beings right from that start, because for sentient beings are very countless, right? Huge. But your Tonglen meditation is not immeasurable, right? Immeasurable. And your meditation will not be stable. The result of this is that you will not get much benefit from this practice. So you should start practice with a specific being that you really, really want to be happy, or you should think about a specific like animal, whatever that is going to be killed right in front of you, and this animal will experience great suffering. Like start with kind of your Tonglen practice. Start with small object rather than think all sentient beings, right? So when you think of it not like watch a movie, but instead you have to visualize yourself in his or her place and think, if this is you, what should you do, or what can you do in order to avoid this suffering? Like this way is very, very tangible, very, very powerful. If you put yourself there, very, very powerful, because selfish, right? Selfish because you care yourself a lot. So if you put this place and you're going to suffering, if you feel that from your heart, really powerful. So that really definitely, I guarantee you, change your mind if you do that. So like when we watch movie, just like there and nothing, right? Nothing feel. But if you put there yourself there and then you will feel very compassion. So that's why in order to feel compassion, you have to know how others suffer. That's all. That's teachers say that. And the only way to learn how others suffer is to learn how you yourself suffer. Because there is no other way actually to get this knowledge, So it's really good Tonglen practice. But the way you practice is very important, Tonglen practice. Sometimes you practice Tonglen, you feel nothing. That means you're not correctly, practice Tonglen. If you correctly practice Tonglen, guarantee you will feel something very strong and compassion. You feel very compassionate. So you have to get this knowledge from yourself. So it's important first to learn compassion for yourself. And once you begin this process, you will come to an understanding of how that suffering feel. And by using this kind of method and practicing like this, you can develop your compassion for others very genuinely, and it helps you to not have the desire to harm others. That is the point. Tonglen practice. Do you understand? Tonglen practice. So this is the method to help people who have difficulty in cultivate compassion, right? So that's why very, very important. And many ways you can practice Tonglen. And according to Buddhism, all sentient beings have been our parents, our mothers, since beginningless times, right? We believe that. Logically, if you investigate, that's make really sense. And if we don't have a capacity to give them peace and happiness directly, then we should dedicate, also teachers always say we should dedicate all our peace and happiness to all of these mother sentient beings as much as we can each and every day. So that's how you help. So in this verse said, help others directly and indirectly, right? What is helping directly other beings? Directly. What does it mean? Directly. It is, teachers always say, directly help others means it is to save the lives of living beings. Means like scheduled to be slaughtered and to release them again and feed them. Life release directly benefits sentient beings. Kanchen Jingme always said that if you release even like one animal, you practice the six parameters all together. It contains everything. If you release one animal, you have generous, discipline, patience, whatever. This all six parameters you all practice as together. So that's so important. That's directly to help others, right? And also, becoming a vegetarian is also helping directly. Very important. So the point is to develop the courage to be willing to go to one of the hill realms if there is a benefit. It doesn't mean you actually have to go to hell, but this is how we develop our confidence. This is how we diminish, confront and avert our ego, this selfishness. So, very important. Actually, we need to know how. Remember last the verse. How can we be humble, yet at the same time realistic about the good qualities that we possess. You know, we have to understand, this is very important in Tibetans. I'm not sure about you, but we have to understand the difference between confidence in our ability and pride. In English, you know, ngarjer means there's this, in English, the word pride is really, like, to me, is very confusing, you know, because sometimes it is good, sometimes it is bad. So instead of pride, I'm going to use the word arrogance. Arrogance is always bad, right? Okay. So we need to know the difference between confidence and arrogance. Many people misunderstand this too, you know. So people think, like, as we said, like, oh, offer victory to others, and some people say, yeah, I can't do that. Yes, you can. That's you lose your confidence. So you need to confidence. But then sometimes, yeah, I can, I'm the best. That's arrogant. That you can't have that, right? So we should have confidence. My teachers always say we should have confidence in whatever good qualities and skills we have, and use them very courageously. But we should not feel arrogant and think we are the best. I am the best, you know. So that's very important, right? Being humble doesn't mean feeling totally helpless or without, like, any qualities. Bapta Rinpoche is a very humble person, but full of qualities, confidence, but no arrogance. So some people are very courageous and confident, but have no arrogance, while others are very arrogant, but have no courage, right? So we should know our capacity and not be afraid to try and grow. That's why I'm saying, like, it's from my own experience. Like, when I think about these verses, it's so hard, I can't do this. That's not correct. Right now I understand. So we should not be afraid to try grow, and but at the same time we should never look down on others. That's arrogant. So if you look down on others or think you are the best, you're suffering from arrogance and will not be able to develop your capacity. Once you're arrogant, you develop your arrogance, you never learn. So that's about Tonglen, okay, about this verse. Now the last verse, verse 8, all things are like illusions. This is another difficult one, right? So the text, I will learn to keep all this practice untainted by thoughts of the outwardly concerns. May I recognize all phenomena are like illusions, and without any clinging, gain freedom from bondage. 대답 근정 춥지지 똑비트미 마르션 죽은 지머리시빌로 신민 청와 리더 쇼 done. So this verse talking about outwardly concerns, okay? Staying away from the outwardly concern is difficult. It's very difficult. Of course, worldly people, like ordinary people have no intention of keeping away from the outwardly concern. That is why they cannot obtain ultimate liberation. That's why we call ordinary people. Even, like, I think even the spiritual leaders, teachers, are using these days. I mean, these days, sometimes people don't like to hear, but I don't care, They use Buddha's power, Buddhism is very powerful. It's 21st century, more and more powerful because it's amazing, wisdom. So people, especially younger generations, more and more interested in Buddhist teaching. So Buddha's, these are very powerful. So therefore, these teachers, to build their wealth, to become famous, and to build their reputation, etc. That is not good Dharma practitioner at all. Because we still have we cannot keep away from these worldly concerns. That's why it's difficult to keep away from the worldly concerns. That's why even the spiritual leaders like to become famous, become wealthy, millionaires. So many things. Then they can do it. So many things, using Buddha's power. But from a Buddhist point of view, whether we are a Dharma practitioner or not, wealth is not a problem. Okay, the problem is having desire for wealth. The Buddha said, friends are not a problem. Attachment to our friend is, etc. So worldly people find it very difficult to see that happiness comes from renouncing this life. Worldly people know, right? So they can't imagine how it's difficult, like Mularipa's life. Worldly people even don't want to think about it. And then even one time Mularipa wandered and came, he was actually on the mountain, and then he came down and then he slept, naked, and then he has no clothes, and then sunburns and everything. Like he looks like very, suffering. And then some woman came in, and oh, you are so poor and suffering, and and then Mularipa said, I have a compassion, you. So, worldly people don't understand this kind of, situation, So it's difficult to see Milarepa as full of, always happy. But worldly people can see that his happiness comes from his the renouncing his life. And all the suffering and worry we have is caused by these worldly concerns. All the negative actions we do through the worldly concerns, but worldly people can see that. So the worldly concerns are, right? What are they?
Desire for gain and avoid loss.
Gain, loss,
Praise and blame.
praise and blame.
Pain and envy.
Yeah.
There you go. So,
What are they in Tibetan?
jikten chenpe nyetang mer nyetang, dedang mer de, nyandang mer nyandang, tummen chibji, jikten chubjit. Dagi yir Dromtönpa added last word. Dagi yir membi gornyam zo. Those are not for me. Dromtönpa say these words, and then he put his walking stick, put in his chain, and then he said the eight worldly concerns, and then last, these are not for me. So But it's very hard to abandon or worldly concerns. We like attachment to being famous, wealthy, um, um, all of this. So these are very difficult, but these are fundamental suffering, Buddhist point of view. Um, of course, we cannot always get the objects we desire. When we are full of sort of needy sort of desire, nothing can ever satisfy us. So there is always something missing in our life. So it is possible to have so another way put it, like the outwardly concern is like, is it possible to have wealth without attachment? Is it possible to have sort of genuine love without attachment? This thing, of course, it is possible, right? So as I said, the problem is not wealth. Problem is not friend. Problem is not famous, but attachment and desire, all of that. So whenever we feel attachment arise, immediately investigate the state of our mind. In this way, we can start to break the old habit. So wealth is not a problem. Attachment is a problem. Some people are like, they're not seeking, like become famous, but they're automatically like famous. That's not a problem. If you do something, become famous using Buddha's power, that is the problem. So Dharma practice bring peace into life and make happy, right? Make us happy, Dharma practice. So there are many ways to meditate on the eight worldly concerns, but it's always good to start with the outer preliminaries. That's why most of you are practicing the outer preliminaries for 20 minutes every day, right? Keep away from the eight worldly concern. You have to think about four thoughts. That is how you develop renunciation. That's why outer preliminary practice, very important. And when you investigate them, right, you have four thoughts that change your mind. So not just to recite, but when you say it and then you investigate them, you will understand the renunciation. So that's they said, Kadampa masters. When the Kadampa masters explain the real happiness and real peace, they're talking from their own experience. Means like they practice four thoughts entire, their life. So they explain that whether we experience happiness or suffering is entirely determined by our motivation, nothing else. Nothing else. Okay? Do you understand that? Only motivation, nothing else. What is motivation? Again, it goes to bodhicitta. So therefore, right now we're talking about these 8 worldly concerns. So I don't have to explain each one of this because you already know, it looks like. Um, when we talk about 8 worldly concerns, most of the great practitioners of the past, they choose to lead a simple life. Atisha said, remember, aim your life simple. And simple life means it helps your practice. Because the purpose of choosing that life is to cut off these 8 worldly concerns. So we think they're we don't have to diminish 8 worldly concerns right away, but just to less desire, less attachment. Something happened, just try to let it go. That's how we do, Dharma practitioners. You don't have to think about being perfect, but just try to slowly, try to release one animal, save one animal's life, try to become a vegetarian like 1 week or 1 month, and just start with very small. So then easy to do it. So that's how we keep away from the 8 worldly concerns. We can do that. So that's not so difficult. But completely abandon 8 worldly concerns. Right now, it's impossible. But that doesn't mean we're not capable. So that's about the 8 worldly concerns. And then also these verses talk about all phenomena is like illusions, right? Without any clinging, like that. So viewing all phenomena as illusion is also very difficult to practice. But the benefit of viewing all phenomena as illusion is when these afflictive emotions arise, such as attachment. If we can directly examine the nature of this emotion, this attachment, we will not be deluded by this phenomena. So therefore, Buddhism actually teaches that there is no creator, right? There is no creator, and that we create everything for ourselves through this negative emotions. So therefore, we our own masters. We are our own masters. So all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas can do is teach. They can teach us Dharma, the path to liberation from suffering, and then it's up to us, right, to put into practice. That's only. That's why we are the responsible, all of these things. So everything, all phenomena is an illusion, means I think we should start when we have we have these negative thoughts, we should at least investigate where they come from, what it is, how you diminish all of that. So that's right away help to have a meaningful life. And then I think that's all. Do you want to meditate a little bit?
Yeah.
All right. So then I think we're going to practice the seventh verse, the Tonglen practice. The root text said, in short, both directly or indirectly, may I offer every happiness and benefit to all my mothers. So my mothers means like we all have been mothers each other, beginningless times, right? So, and then we should take away suffering from mothers. So this is Tonglen practice. So Tonglen, the practice of Tonglen begins with our aspiration to help others, and everybody knows this practice. But when we start working with the Tonglen practice, if we are a beginner, means like not completely beginner, but we don't have a lot of capacity, then we should not feel that we have this capacity. Means like I can give my happiness, I can take away from suffering from. We should not feel like that kind of capacity, but we desire to develop our ability to genuinely care for other living beings and wish to help others, at least not harm others. That is your motivation, okay? That's your motivation. And now, in this practice, I think we should do it like with your breath. Your breath symbolizes your life, your wealth, your physical and your mental happiness. So all of that goes toward the beings in front of you. As I said, you visualize somebody that you really cares and then you really want it happy. So when you breathe out, all of goes there. And then imagine all of their unhappiness and suffering leaving their body and mind. That's all. And then rest. You do this one time and then rest. Rest there for as long as you want. Means like relax your mind. Focus on your mind. Means like focus on your awareness. Means practice in one-pointed concentration. Okay, this is very important. Concentration means like holding the mind, which is like without forgetting it. Okay, and sometimes people think, "What you're talking about?" I never forget that I have mind, but sometimes we forget. Means like we don't know what we're thinking. So concentration, hold your mind, means not forget. And then if you're really difficult, like focus on your concentration, then go back to your sending bodhicitta practice. I call this sending bodhicitta practice, with your breath. You send your happiness, everything, and then you visualize suffering, living their body, mind, and then you relax, you focus on concentration. And then your thoughts rise, and then send again. Do you understand? Okay, that's Tonglen. That's how you develop your bodhicitta. So especially when you did this many times, sometimes you become tired, and then you simply do rest in meditation, right? Rest in meditation. Rest as long as you can. Which also we can say like ultimate bodhicitta. Practice ultimate bodhicitta. You rest in your nature mind, awareness. That's ultimate bodhicitta. practice Tonglen is relative bodhicitta. So this we call Tonglen practice bodhicitta with rest and meditation means like you practice relative bodhicitta, you practice ultimate bodhicitta same time. Very good. For a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes. Visualize somebody. It could be your friends who are suffering. It could be your maybe I don't know, like animal who are suffering, and something like that. Very don't think about all sentient beings free from suffering like that, but start with a specific being that really easy to understand and you care about this. So start with that Tonglen practice, very tangible, very powerful, okay? 5 minutes. Tonglen practice for 5 minutes. That's not enough, but an idea. It's very good. Short practice is very powerful, though. Frequently, that's they said, right? Short practice frequently. So all good. So I think that's all the adverses mind training. You have written transmission. Now you have written transmission. I received this from Kanchen Rinpoche dozens of times. And this transmission came from Langri Thangpa himself. So we're very connected. And so the thing is, you have to practice. We have to, especially like when you have difficult situation, you should remember these adverses. And if you want it, you can memorize them, recite every day, and so that you will understand when you need them. So that's very important. This is very short text and very profound and beneficial. That's all. And yeah, thank you very much for coming and practice together today. It's wonderful. Not West, we're not West today. So this is a very, very beneficial and meaningful day, and I'm very happy to be able to teach adverse mind training, because I already taught the Lama Tsongkhava's commentary, renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness, right? So now I taught this adverse mind training. Now I have the 37 practice of Bodhisattva. So my root teachers, you have to teach these 3 commentaries. They're all mind training, lojong teaching, very, very important. So I'm very happy done with this practice and meditation with all of you. And the next March, we have 1 day retreat. It will be about 6 pardos. 6 pardos, right? I thought that's very important, because we all going to experience 6 pardos, let's put it that way, not negatively. So time is very fast. Life is very short, very precious. So don't miss if you want to practice 6 pardos. Then I have another retreat in May. That's all. So only 2 retreats left. So so it's very fortunate, and Dharma practice is amazing. Guru practice is amazing, especially like we know each other very well. So that helps me to how to teach. So what else? That's all I have. So thank you very much. Now we have closing prayer.
May I pursue the flawless mindset of altruism, working for the welfare of others on a vast scale. Through this very merit of mine, a single sentient being, eliminate all forms of negativity and practice virtue forevermore. May Supreme Precious Bodhicitta take birth where it has not arisen. Where it has arisen, may it never wane, but continue to grow forevermore. For as long as space exists, for as long as beings endure, until then may I too remain to dispel the suffering of all beings. May I in all my lives, no matter where I am born, obtain the 7 qualities of the upper realms of existence. May I meet the Dharma immediately after taking birth and have the freedom to practice perfectly. May I please the sublime gurus and day and night dedicate myself to the Dharma by realizing the Dharma and practicing its innermost essence. May I cross the ocean of conditioned existence in this very life. May I teach the sublime Dharma perfectly and never become weary and tired of benefiting others in samsara by my own impartial and all-encompassing activities to benefit others. May all attain enlightenment together. Free in the divine mandala, where all that appears and exists is utterly pure, you, the sovereign of all the Buddha families and teacher of the Tantras, mature and liberate the 3 gates into their Vajra nature. Vajra King, may you ever remain. Within the Vajra body, you reveal the mandala of the great bliss of the indestructible 3 secrets. Most supreme of all, Lord of the Vajra transmission, Vajra Master, may you remain for 100 eons. Through the effortless path, you directly reveal unchanging self-awareness, the basic space of great bliss, caring for the profound key instructions of perfection. Glorious Guru, may you remain until the end of existence. Precious successor to the Gurus of the 3 lineages, may you remain throughout the 3 times in Vajra form, forever hoisting the great banner of the Dharma of the 3 lineages throughout the 3 realms.